Hey everybody, Mark Herman, aka LA Bengals fan on most of the major platforms. And as usual, I am joined in Cincinnati by Sam Snyder of Primetime Sports Talk. Tell them where they can find all your stuff, Sam.
Sure, you can find me on Twitter at Buy and Sell You. I write for Primetime Sports Talk, like Mark said. You can find us at Talk Primetime or primetimesportstalk.com.
All right, well, we are here. We're going to preview the Week 14 matchup at home, the return of Andy Dalton to Cincinnati with the Cowboys coming into town. And Sam has already gone out on a limb and said, this is that you did it weeks ago. I said, I don't think there's another win on the schedule. You said, yes, there is. We're winning the Dallas game. So you're already on record.
We sure are. And I'm all in.
Well, I will say,
but I'm not placing any wagers as to what I would do on the video next week if we don't.
Well, I will say, looking at the schedule, this is clearly the best shot at a win. Also, we have everybody else, and check me, I would have to go back and look, but I don't think that any of the other teams in our division have lost a game to outside of Pittsburgh losing to Washington. This, which I'm sure everybody enjoyed. Outside of Pittsburgh losing to Washington, I don't think the Ravens, Steelers, or Browns have lost to any of the NFC East teams. And we're right now 0-2-1 against that division. So this is our one chance to actually maybe grab a win against the weakest division. Otherwise, if we go 0-3-1 against the weakest division, that's going to be a major, that's not going to look good for this coaching staff.
Yeah, and I don't have those records in front of me either, but I would assume that you're correct, just because all three of those teams are over 500 right now, right. And you can name off a couple of tougher games that they played. I mean, but Pittsburgh's only got one loss, and that was right. Washington. But Baltimore is down this year compared to last year. But they're still, I mean, they've still got the wins, and Cleveland is playing well. So I wouldn't be surprised if you're absolutely correct that
there might be one. Yeah, there might be one loss. Maybe the Giants squeaked one out against it, but to memory, I think Washington was the first loss by any of the other three teams.
Yeah, so, it might have been.
Yeah, so to this division. So that's not, like I said, that doesn't bode well for us. But as usual, we're going to go through the things we feel good about, the things we don't feel good about. And I've got a couple on each. Obviously, I don't feel good that Jonah was put on IR. So we don't have Jonah Williams for the rest of the season. He joins. Mixon is on the IR, could come back, but I don't see that happening. I don't see why we would risk Mixon. So I think
and I said that last week. I can't remember if it was the preview or the recap, but I talked about my source inside the organization that said I just don't see it happening. And there's two things on that. Number one, it didn't surprise me at all because look at the way we handled AJ Green last year.
Right.
If we needed the wins, AJ might have played. But we were like, nah, it's not a big deal. And the other thing is, and I know you'll love this, this gives the coaching staff another excuse to say, well, we didn't have Joe Mixon. So why rush him back and say, well, you couldn't win once you got Joe Mixon back. Instead, you're like, no, let's just shut him down so that we can stop talking about firing.
Having the Mixon excuse is going to carry no weight with the fan base. So
no, not with the
Gio's been running. So
not with the fan base at all, but possibly with ownership.
I don't know. I with the rumblings in the family that we talked about in the last episode, I really believe that I don't think that would carry a whole lot of weight. Especially,
I mean, I don't get me wrong. I agree with you. I'm just saying it's kind of one of those last ditch gambles that you do. To say, no, you stay away so that we can try to pull a rabbit out of our hat and keep a job here.
No, I think they're going to be pulling more than
we didn't have Joe Mixon, so
I think they're going to be pulling more than a rabbit, and it ain't coming out of their hat. Let's leave it alone. So I've got two more things, so you set me up for that, so I couldn't not take it.
Oh no, absolutely. I said it and you spiked it.
That's it. So Dalton coming back, I think Dalton has a chip. Dalton would like nothing more than to win this game in front of his old fans. And I think his team will respond to him. There's been when you hear the other players talk about Dalton, they've said how happy they are that they've signed him. I know he hasn't had the great games, but it hasn't been due to him. I mean, he had no protection on a couple of the games from the offensive line. The defense, their defense is terrible, which is why we have a shot. I mean, our offense is terrible too. I don't know that they can take advantage of it, but their defense is terrible. He's going to have a chip on his shoulder. I think this team plays for him. And then the last thing I have is kind of for both sides. I've got both coaches need this game. There was a article written. I tweeted it out. You can check my Twitter feed, but it talked about the odds, the lowest odds for the next coach to be fired is basically McCarthy and Taylor, 1 and 2. So these coaches both, if they want to save their jobs, this game, a loss in this game for either coach is another nail in their coffin.
It's really funny you say that, because we can keep it in the family, because I happened to look up those odds today as well. And actually now Mike Zimmer leads both of those guys.
I would, if Zimmer became available, I've already said I would love to have Minnesota fire Zimmer, and I would love to send Zach his walking papers
at this point
and get Zim back home. We should have never let him go.
Yeah, at this point, Zimmer is 14-1 to be the next coach fired. Fangio and Zach Taylor are both 18-1.
Right.
McCarthy is 20-1. What's baffling is that Adam Gase is not even. God. I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? Adam Gase isn't even there.
He's gone at the end of the year.
You would think so, right?
I've talked to Jet fans for the last 2 years. I have a very close friend who's a huge Jet fan, and when they made the hire, he said, "Why are we hiring this guy? It's not like his resume in Miami was that great." Yeah,
right.
Tannehill had an okay season under him, but Bullygate happened under his watch. He was just completely dumbfounded and basically took the same approach I took when we hired Zach Taylor. He said, okay, I'm going to trust that ownership knows more than me. And now he's sitting here 3 years later and saying, oh my gosh, this was.
I only wrote down those bottom four. I imagine Gase has got to be right above that. But even he's probably at, 22, 23-1, which means, man,
those are all pretty close.
But I'm saying for Adam Gase, you got $100 would win you probably $2,200-$2,300 if you placed that bet tomorrow.
Yeah, but you have to remember something. This is the next coach fired. So they probably think, okay, Gase is safe till the end of the season, and then he's gone. Because the Jets would like to, I think you know what? Who was it? I was listening to Moving the Chains or one of those shows, and Brady Quinn was talking about how they all get together in the studio. When they're in the studio, he can hear cheering and stuff. He said something to the effect of, when the Jets lost the game, on the Hail Mary, he said there were a couple Jet fans in the office that cheered. They were excited when the Hail Mary hit. And I still think that play was called on purpose. I think they were
I recognize that it's for the next coach to be fired, but I don't think Mike Zimmer or Zach Taylor will be fired before Adam Gase.
Well, it's gambling odds, so they have to throw the stuff out there. But this anyway. With that said, the loss in this game is just another nail in whichever losing coach gets it in his coffin, because they're in trouble. So it might be more so on Taylor, because we would go 0-3-1 against arguably the worst division ever in football, the NFC East. That would go well. And McCarthy's in his first year.
Didn't you just last week, didn't you say, well, I'm not going to sit here and bury the NFC East?
So, no, I said I wasn't going to bury the Giants. I thought the Giants had a good chance. But
I'll go back.
Let's all be honest. Back. Whoever wins the NFC East is a one and done in the playoffs. I cannot imagine any of those teams, whether it's Philly or Washington. They're flawed teams. That's why the division. That's why basically, at 7-9 is going to be the best. I think we're going to see a 6-10 team win a division. I really do.
I mean, possibly. I mean, we got a pair of
We got
4
3
win
games
teams
left,
right
and we
now.
got a pair of 5 games, so it's probably going to be 7-9.
Right.
So,
Well, that's what they said about Seattle on the year that Marshawn Lynch hit the Richter scale when they came in 7-9 and beat the Saints. Not even came in. They got to play at home because they were a division winner.
Well, that was the argument: was do they deserve to host a game? This will start up that whole conversation about maybe you shouldn't seed them by divisions, shouldn't automatically get a home game because you wind up with a 10-6 team visiting a 7-9 team, and it's not really that fair. So,
all right, what else you
that's
got?
what I have on. That's what I have that I'm not feeling good about. The no Jonah, the Dalton coming back, and that McCarthy really needs the win. So
yeah, and I've got, Dalton is, and we've talked about this before. I'm a huge Andy Dalton apologist. I was a really big fan. But he's up to his old tricks in Dallas. Even before the concussion and the COVID diagnosis, he's played in 7 games. 2 of them just not a whole lot, but in his 5 starts, he's 1-4. He's got just over 1,100 yards, 7 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Sounds pretty familiar.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We're very familiar. Our whole fan base is familiar with those kind of numbers.
Yeah, and his QB rating this year is 50. That's bad, man. Yeah. That's really bad. And actually, to put it in perspective of how bad it is, in 2 games, Brandon Allen's QB rating is 67.6 and 79.5, and we all know that he didn't look real good.
No, well, let's put things in perspective first. Dallas has been trying to win games. They've been asking Dalton to go downfield because they have something to play for. Where the Bengals have asked Brandon Allen, especially in the last game, hey, complete this 2-yard pass, complete this 3-yard pass. They really haven't asked him to air it out. So I understand the difference also with but the turnovers, I think, hurt Dalton the most. But still, if you were
he's still got Ezekiel Elliott in the backfield, who is not having the greatest year, but he's still just shy of 800 yards right now. I don't think people realize that.
But how many fumbles? So that's been Zeke's problem. Fumbles.
Yeah, no, I agree, because they're turning the ball over. I think I wrote it down. They've got a ton of turnovers.
Well, they have
the Cowboys are -13.
Yeah,
on turnover ratio.
They have 2 losses that are on Zeke, and the reason why I say that is and I bet the Cowboys because they're going to win this game, and I remember losing those games, and I'm watching them. He started out the game with 2 or 3 fumbles where they got down into such a big hole they couldn't come back, and he was then out of the game. They couldn't just pound the ground because because they were so far behind. And he made a short field. I can't remember, one of the games was like I had 2 fumbles at his end of the field and just gave these short fields, and the next thing you know, they're chasing 3 scores.
Yeah, when they played the Washington football team, I think it was 2 weeks ago, maybe it was 3.
Thanksgiving.
They got when they got completely smoked.
Right.
I think he only ended up having 10 carries because they were losing by so much that there was no way they were going to give him the ball. But and Dalton, I'm knocking him for the QB rating, and it's not good. I don't want to excuse it at all, but in the games he started, it's the defense, I think, that we need to be talking about as Bengals fans. In the games that Dalton has started, they've given up 38, 25, 28, 41, 34.
Oh, yeah.
And in the 2 games that he played parts of, they gave up 39 and 34.
Right.
So they're coughing up stuff. I mean, they've given up 393 points this year. You think we're bad? We've only given up 308. Dallas is last in points allowed. They're 24th in points scored. Neither one of our schedules are particularly strong. Ours is actually weaker.
Right.
I think the key to this, if I can flip it to what we're feeling good about,
right,
I think the key to this is, the Dallas defense is bad, but it's particularly the rush defense.
Right.
They're giving up almost 170 yards a game.
Yes.
Now, of course, that all depends on whether or not Zach Taylor decides to actually give Gio the ball in his last 4 games. 8 carries, 9 carries, 8 carries, 12 carries. That's not going to do it.
No, we need it. No, he needs 20 touches. He needs 20 carries this game.
Absolutely. And, I think it's a matter of, and I'm afraid that it's not going to happen, because I'm afraid that we're going to come into this and he's going to see that Dallas is their defense is bad all over and think, well, this is the one where we can actually throw the ball.
Right.
And none of us want that to happen. Give Gio the rock, give it to him 20 times in a game, and I bet you he's going to have 120, 130 yards. He's going to find pay dirt a couple times, but he's got to get those 20 carries. If he doesn't get them, it's not going to happen.
No,
so,
and we said this continually about running the football and scheming. So it wouldn't surprise me if Zap blows the scheme again this week.
Right.
Which is, you can go back to any of my videos. I've talked about this ad nauseum about my frustration with with Zach Taylor and his play calling. Yeah, I have that down that we can run on this D. That was my second thing. The other thing I had, obviously, and you touched on it, is the short week. They've had one practice. They had to play on Tuesday because
Tuesday night, and they got
the Ravens
destroyed by the Ravens.
Oh yeah, so
it wasn't even. They lost 34-17. It didn't even look that close.
No, it wasn't. So but actually it was closer in the beginning, and then a couple calls didn't go their way. They could have scored. Dallas could have scored right before going into half, and they didn't call a pass interference that would have put them in field goal range. I mean, They could have carried a little momentum in the locker room. So the calls didn't go their way either. But they also came to a Baltimore team that was really looking. They needed a bounce back game, and Dallas was served up on a silver platter for them.
Right. Well, and Baltimore had just seen Pittsburgh lose the night before.
Yes.
So they were the day before, I guess, because it was the first part of the doubleheader. So they were like, this is a chance for us to gain some ground. So yeah, Dallas was walking right into a buzzsaw in that situation. I think a fun thing, this isn't really a like or don't like. A fun thing is we've got 2 really, really awesome rookie wide receivers in this game. And they're so comparative stats wise that it's kind of fun. You got CD Lamb
and Higgins.
He's got 59 catches for 696 yards, 4 touchdowns. On our side, you got Tom Maurice Higgins. He's got 53 catches for 729 yards and 5 touchdowns. Both of them have rushed the ball numerous times. Higgins 5 times, Lamb 7 times. And, I don't know. That's just one of those when you've got 2 teams that are bad and probably have no shot at the playoffs. I mean, I know technically Dallas is not eliminated in the NFC East, but they just don't look like they can do it. So, that's just one of those little sub things when you've got a couple of bad teams playing that you're like, well, let's see, outside of Jefferson and Minnesota, let's see probably the 2 best rookie wideouts play against each other in a game. That'll be fun.
Yeah, no, that would be good. We didn't get the Burrow Tua thing, so we might as well get these 2 receivers this week. So
right.
All right. Well, with all that said, what's your prediction? And I know you got to have Bengals as a win, so
I do, because I've been talking about this for weeks. This was my one win. And not only that, I'm going crazy here, Mark.
Okay.
We're winning a laugher. We're winning this going away. I've got Bengals 31, Dallas 20.
Okay. You think the Dallas 20, I can see. You think that Brandon Allen is going to lead this team to 31 points?
I think a pick 6.
Okay, so you're going to give up, and we got special teams?
At least one Gio Bernard 40-yard breakaway.
Okay.
That's 14 of them right there. I think Brandon Allen can lead us to 17 other points against this defense, which is just, I mean, you think our defense sucks. Dallas is terrible. They are just absolutely horrible. I mean,
they are. Listen, That's the thing. The saving grace for Dallas is Brandon Allen and Zach
Yep.
Taylor's play calling. That's the saving grace. And Zach Taylor, I listened to one of the press conferences, either Tuesday or Wednesday. I don't know why. I guess I just like to punish myself. But I listened to Zach Taylor's press conference, and they asked him about, have you considered handing the play calling off to somebody else? And he said his exact response was, no, we're comfortable with what we're doing. And I thought, okay. So the play calling is not going anywhere, but between the play calling and Brandon Allen, that's the saving grace for the Dallas defense, is that we won't run the ball, and you have a quarterback that's not going to put up, 3 touchdowns on you. So
yeah, I look at Dallas, and they, we talked about it before, that division is not very good. They've already played multiple division games, including getting smoked by Washington, not once, but twice.
Right.
And it's not like Washington is a world beater. I know they beat us, so I'm not talking shit.
They beat us after Burrow got hurt. We would have won that game.
I'm just saying Washington's not exactly amazing.
Right. I agree.
But Dallas has scored 29 touchdowns this season. They have given up 47.
Oh yeah. No, they haven't.
In 12 games.
Yeah.
That's 3 touchdowns a game, not including field goals or anything like that. It's just an average of 3 touchdowns a game. I mean, do I think Brandon Allen can actually score on them? I do. I really do.
You have to call the plays, and he has to execute. I would be interested, and maybe one of the fans could put it in the comment section. I would be curious how many touchdowns of the 29 that Dallas scored, how many of those are Dak Prescott in the first few weeks? Because Dallas was scoring a ton of points because Dak was having to throw the ball a lot, and they scored a lot of points before Dak Prescott went down. So I'd be curious how many of 29
Dalton has only accounted for 7 passing, and I think
22,
1,
but Zeke's going to have
1 rushing. So
yeah, but I'd be curious. I think the majority of those were scored in the first few weeks before Prescott got hurt. All right, well, here's a week where we're going to be completely opposite on predictions. I see a close game because of Dallas's defense being weak. So I do think that we're going to get a defensive score. I do think Brandon Allen may have a couple short fields. Maybe we get a good kick return where we're already starting on their side of the field. I do see us putting up 20 points. And I see our defense holding Dallas to around 23. So I'm going 23-20 Dallas. I still think they pull it out in the end. I just think I think they're hungrier, and I trust, as a coach, to scheme the game properly. I trust McCarthy more to come in with the right scheme than I do Taylor. You said it yourself. You don't know the tape. You can't say for sure that Taylor's going to take advantage of this rush defense. He might.
Yeah, no, and I don't agree with that remark, but yes, I did say that. The thing with McCarthy is McCarthy shouldn't be a coach in the NFL either. If you don't think Zach Taylor should be, neither should McCarthy. He's completely eschewed any sort of analytics. That's why he lost his job in Green Bay.
Right. Well,
that's why
he's an old school
That's why
guy.
He went over a year without a job, because he's old school. And the only person that's going to hire an old school coach is Jerry fucking Jones.
And that's
the only guy that'll do it.
And this is guy, and this is why McCarthy, after on not a long stay in Dallas, is right there in the top of the odds of being fired.
Agreed.
I just think this week they'll come up with something. That's all.
Yeah, I think this is just the ultimate something's got to give game.
Right.
Both teams are bad. Both teams are bad on defense. Both teams have had issues on offense. It's amazing. Like, I'm looking at my notes right now, and it's like I've got Elliott across from Bernard and Dalton across from Allen and CeeDee Lamb and Higgins. And this is how bad the Cowboys defense is. This is how bad the Bengals defense is. And it's the ultimate something's got to give, or how does the ball bounce that one time?
Right. There's going to be turnovers or penalties that are going to be key. And if they go the Bengals' way, the Bengals can pull it out. And if they go Dallas's way, Dallas will pull it out. The other reason why I'm tipping over on a close game to Dallas is, if you asked me to pick, you can have either Andy Dalton or Brandon Allen as your quarterback. I would still take Andy Dalton. He can get the ball to CeeDee Lamb. He can get the ball to Amari Cooper. He's been hitting Dalton Schultz. He's been moving the ball. They've just been getting so far behind. I don't see us jumping out to a really big lead and getting Dallas out of their game. And I think they get to stay in a rhythm with Zeke. And like I said, I trust Andy Dalton. If I had to choose between Dalton and Allen, I would take Dalton. I'm there on that side.
I think it's, I've seen on Twitter and on social media everywhere, people calling this a revenge game for Andy Dalton, and which I think is ridiculous because do you know how many revenge games Andy Dalton got the opportunity to play in Cincinnati, whether it was against Pittsburgh or Baltimore or Cleveland? And we all know how those revenge games turned out.
Yeah.
He didn't do so good.
No.
So, but I think it all comes back, like we were saying, it all comes back. Are we going to run the ball? Because if we can keep Dalton off the field, if we can keep their offense, which can score,
right,
especially with Sean Williams going to be out, he's suspended.
Right.
If we can keep their offense off the field by running the clock and controlling the ball, then I think it's an easy win. But I agree with you. It could the scale can tip either way for sure.
Right. Well, I do see a close game. I don't see it as a blowout. And you mentioned the Sean Williams suspension. That was right. Anybody who saw it was all over Twitter. Him stepping on that's Burfict stuff all over again. Purposely stepping on a guy's ankle in plain view. Everybody saw it. It was like, yeah, you're lucky you only got one game.
Yeah, I noticed your boy Ace Boogie didn't have anything to say about that.
No. Well, you know what? It's we can't control what Ace says. Ace is a free spirit. So, but all right. Well, with that, we will be back with a recap of this game. I expect this to be an entertaining game.
I think it is. I think it's going to be entertaining.
I think this is probably one of the better of our remaining games, just for viewing. I think this will be I think it'll be a close game. I think it'll be entertaining. And if nothing else, this isn't a revenge game. Andy Dalton, this is a homecoming. He's just this is everybody's chance to really, because he didn't play towards the end of his stay with us, and then he was gone. And this is kind of a he's going to get a warm reception. Are there any fans at the game this week? I don't know.
From all 3,000 fans.
But I'm just saying, it's not going to be. This isn't the Boo Birds.
Right.
Coming out. I don't see that at all. Matter of fact, you look on Twitter and there's a lot of people have said, no, I'm not rooting against Andy.
Well, there's also a lot of people saying that they would prefer that we tanked.
Right.
So they're actually like, I'm rooting for Andy.
Right. Well, I'm in that position where I've said staying at 3 is a good spot because that's the only thing that's going to get us that top tackle out of Oregon. And that's because he'll be gone. Dallas will grab him at 5 or 6, wherever they wind up drafting. So, but it also gives us a shot, maybe somebody wanting to trade up for the BYU kid or something. We're in a position to where we might be able to make some hay. So nothing bad happens. And it's not just, people always forget, it's not just about the first round. You pick third on day 2 and you pick third on day 3. So that's guys that fall down, you wind up being in a position. Maybe we stay at 3, we take the tackle, but on the second day, someone who was supposed to be a first day falls down, and we end up trading our third pick in the second round for a multiple pick. So it's one of those things. That's where the draft position pays off. So I'm in that camp to stay at 3 because Dallas has 3 wins also. So this game is also going to be the tiebreaker. It could be the tiebreaker on the picks.
Yeah, well, I'm excited. I'm excited to see our final win of the season on Sunday.
Okay. Well, listen, you've never held back. I've said, Sam, what do you really think? You've said this is our win. You said it weeks ago. You've stayed with it. So let's see it. And I agree. This is our best chance. I'm going with we're not winning anymore this season. So, all right. With that, we will be back right after the game to give you a recap. If you don't subscribe, please do subscribe. Just click the little logo on the bottom. That's all we ask for. And Sam,
are we asking for money?
No, we don't ask for money. We just ask you to subscribe. And Sam, you want to tell them where they can find your stuff one more time?
Sure. On Twitter at Buy and Sell You. I write for Primetime Sports Talk, which is at Talk Primetime or primetimesportstalk.com.
All right. Well, with that, I'm going to say hoo day, everybody. And we will catch you Sunday. Take care.